Good morning everybody, happy Saturday, hope you're doing well out there. I'm doing a second video on narcissism because there was a lot of questions asked about the first one I did some weeks back. So the first one was more about generalizations about what symptoms of a narcissist are, so you can be a bit more clearer in your life. I am aware, you know, narcissists get banded around a lot, so you know we can label anybody narcissist, but that's not what it's about. Narcissism is a very specific type of way of being that we can all have one trait of it or maybe two. So when it's narcissism, there's a lot more traits than just a few, because we're all human. We all have, you know, flaws and faults and ways of being that we can evolve from. The thing is with narcissism is what happens is when it starts to become clear that we're connected to somebody that may well be narcissistically abusing us, what happens is we kind of get stuck. So this is like the next phase of what narcissism does compared to the first video I did. So when we're in a connection, whether it's a relative, a friend, a lover, whatever it might be, we tend to get stuck, and it can be known as Stockholm syndrome or trauma bonding. What happens is that we've believed the charming side of the narcissist to be the real true self of them, and what happens is after a while their masks fall off, and they will always fall off because for a true narcissist it's never their fault, it's everybody else, never them. So eventually that mask starts to slip where they've been very charming and the opposite to who they really are. What's happened by then is that even the brain chemistry has actually bonded to that person based on a false sense of who they were, and that's devastating for people. But they're then sitting there stuck, waiting for the original version of that person to return. Only this is where the damage happens. That person doesn't return because who they're displaying now, if they're a true narcissist, is their real true colours. What a mess. People often stay in those connections for too long because they are being brainwashed, and because the default pattern of a true narcissist is that it's never their fault, they're always the victim, it's always been done to them. What happens is to the person that they're being a narcissist too, they become brainwashed and they slowly start to erode. Their self-esteem breaks down, their confidence breaks down, they lose sense of who they are. To a degree they're now reliant on the narcissist because the narcissist has often chipped away, whether it's coercively and subtly or malignantly, towards that person's self-esteem and self-worth. That person no longer knows who they are. They become reliant on the narcissist because they're so demonized that they actually start to believe what they're being told. And this is where it goes extra wrong. They start to lose who they are. So now they're trauma bonded. They're attached to this person who's telling them all these awful things about themselves. And I'll tell you why. A very typical pattern for a narcissist is to kind of reward you, maybe with a breadcrumb of love, affection, kindness, warmth. Note, it will be a breadcrumb. And that's where your self-esteem might be tolerating that that's enough, okay? But then they will take it away. So they'll reinforce and then take away. Reinforce, take away. What happens to the person on the receiving end of this over time? They get what's called brain fog. Literally confusion. They're being gaslighted, so it's a big term we use a lot. Again, true gaslighting is where somebody is manipulating you, and it is basically supersonic manipulation, where you no longer actually believe your own thoughts. You start to doubt yourself, you start to question yourself, you start to think maybe it's all me. But it's very common for the narcissist to absolutely project upon yourself the exact things they're doing themselves. So what will happen is a narcissist needs a feed, a person, be it anyone. They will suck onto that person, vampire that person's energy, because they need that. Because really, the narcissist actually has a very fragile ego, low self-esteem. So they're overcompensating through feeding off somebody else. If they can devalue somebody else, they feel better and stronger. If they can put somebody else down, they've got control. And it's all about control, because if the narcissist isn't in control, things go wrong in their inner world, because they're not dealing with any of their stuff. They're just projecting it right onto you as if it was yours when it's not. They will make you feel responsible for them. No, you're not. They're responsible for their own stuff. They will blame you for their every whim and woe, and there'll be many whims and woes because they're typically in victim mentality, where it's all done to me. Poor me, I've had a horrendous life. They might have. They might have. Absolutely, they might have. However, that does not excuse their behaviour. Typically, the people that fall into the traps of staying around a narcissist are hugely empathic. They might have had a horrendous life themselves. So an empath and a narcissist, terrible mix, but goes so well to start with. So empath can see past all the bad behaviours of the narcissist once they start to exhibit them, which takes a while, because they're saying, oh, poor narcissist, all these awful things. So it pulls on the empath's heartstrings. Narcissist is lapping this up, loving it. Oh, look, I can get away with anything. I can do anything. Empathy over here is allowing this, because empathy can't see yet the true colours. When the true colours start to shine, empathy is probably all kinds of gaslit, trauma bonded, traumatised, feeling the weight of the burdens of all the narcissist problems as if they were their own. They're not. But it's so messy, and people often say, well, who would stay with a narcissist anyway? Well, when you're struggling with brain fog, confusion, you've been master manipulated, you don't even know who you are anymore, your soul is crumbling right before you, that's why you'd stay with a narcissist. So what happens is when the empathic person, or the broken person, or the very confused person, whatever it might be, there's no particular label to who you will be, it just happens. When they start to realise there's something very wrong, they can still take years to leave. Purely because the narcissist can up the ante, and it can get dangerous when it's time for the empathic person, or the abused person, or traumatised person to start leaving. The narcissist will start to feel that they're losing control, and all kinds of new, very erratic, very extraordinary, and very, very treacherous behaviours can then unfold. Now, I'm not saying that to scare you, it's almost to prepare you. It's the next level of what happens when somebody's around huge amounts of narcissism. It actually gets harder to leave, for all the reasons I've said. So it's so important to support anybody you know that is going through experiences at the hands of a narcissist, you know, whether you get them to have professional help or you just say you're there, but you can't pull them out of it. It's not a good idea to tell them they must leave either. It can be very hard to watch them. If it's a loved one, it can be hard to watch. But narcissists have ways of making it extra hard for somebody to leave, and their behaviours might get worse towards the end. It's just good to be aware of these things, and that somebody on the receiving end of it, it's not black and white. It's literally a physical hit that they're taking, chemistry, all kinds that keeps them trapped, confused. They deserve so much support. The empathic side of me would say probably a narcissist needs a lot of support as well, because there's a lot of reasons why they've gone down that route and developed that type of personality. However, will they ever seek the support? Will they ever admit there's anything wrong? That's why they're so dangerous. If you need any more help with this or any more support, you can visit my website or contact me at www.holisticsue.com. Take care.